drug is either doing one of two things. It is mimicking the neurochemistry because it's so close in its structure that it bonds, or it releases. Either way, you're overstimulating the postsynaptic gap. Either way, the brain is getting a message, you've got too much of this stuff. And now the brain has a primary responsibility, which is to maintain homeostasis. And if the brain can talk and say, wow, there's just way too much dopamine, endorphin, serotonin, these things are off the chart. We need to slow this down. So what happens is the brain usually begins by slowing down production of some of these major neurochemicals. These are so important for human mood, appetite, sex drive, the ability to experience life's normal pleasures, and I'm starting to deplete them. So in between my use, how am I feeling? Yeah. And because, you know, when you think about addiction is not up here, folks. Addiction is down here. Never forget that. And because this thing is beginning to get hotter and hotter, because this thing is emotionally overwhelming, because basically my shame and all that other stuff overwhelms me, what am I really afraid of? Everything? I don't see that I can make it in life. I don't see that I can get a job. I don't see I can have a successful relationship. I don't see a lot of things. So what's the end result? Fuck it. Sit on the couch. That behavior causes me to become a self-fulfilling prophet as day by day, month by month, year by year. Now, as I continue to do this, the brain is in a continual fight to maintain homeostasis. I'm not doing very well. I can tell you a lot of tweakers like myself had to do so much speed just to stay awake. How many heroin addicts had to do so much drug just to not be sick? How many alcoholics have to drink so much just to be able to sign their name? They're not drunk, they're not high, they ain't nod. But as I am going through this product, and party's a whole different world. You want to party with me now, you're on a long haul because we got to do some shit. Which means that my quantities have gone way up, and for me, I become very polysubstance-based, which means mix it all up and swallow Jack Daniels. Because I've got to hit that mark. The brain comes over and begins to also produce receptor sites. I am living again now in levels of anxiety, depression, anhedonia, states of fear, unregulated emotion, one that triggers my lower brain saying, this is dangerous. I'm in a constant hypervigilance. I'm in fight and flight, and I'm just sitting on the couch. And as time goes on, I'm going to lose cells. If you want to see what this looks like, you can go try to grab a couple slides and views off the Dr. Amon's site who will show you SPECT scans. But I'm going from neural nets that are like this to this. I'm going, the orbital frontal cortex, the medial frontal cortex does not achieve full development until the age of 25, which is why teenagers are idiots. Sorry. There is actual brain development science, we're going to get into that. What is happening to that development when I'm 13 or 14 and putting drugs on board? Wow. You know, addicts have not developed intellectually, and I'll tell you more severely, they have not developed emotionally. You take a drug away from an addict, it is on average, regardless of age, that they have, on average, can be lower, can be a little higher, on average, they have the emotional capability and coping skills of a 14 to 16-year-old child. You can witness this, you can hear it, they have no boundaries, they're abrasive, they're obsessive compulsive, they're oppositionally defiant, they're almost stomping their feet, little children pissed off. When they come in to see me, And by the way, let me tell you some other things real quick, because I don't know where I'm at, but if you see a brain through SPECT imaging, you're going to see a dramatic loss of function across the brain. In the SPECT scan, it looks like you can look right through a lot of the brains. Now, that doesn't mean they have holes. It means there's no activity in those parts of the brain, which are massive, which means there's nothing going on. And for the most part, whether it was there prior to drug use, because we didn't look, I don't know, or as a result of drug use, this ain't happening, folks, right there. It ain't happening. There's no regulatory function of the frontal cortex regulating the limbic system. I have gone from what the mammal was supposed to evolve into, which is intellect predominating emotion, into a creature that's running on emotion predominating intellect. Any creature, my pipple, that's the way they operate. They don't have a lot of that medial orbital frontal cortex, but they are emotionally hot. They can love you to death and then kill each other over a stuffed animal because they can't tell the difference between survival and a play toy. Codependents have an incredibly overactive lower limbic system. Why? This is all coming from here, folks. The codependent has basically the same thing going on, but they also have a huge structure of cortisol. They're in a stressed out, highly anxiety, high hypervigilant state all the time. And how do they regulate their emotional turmoil? By dissociation. Chasing me around, gonna fix me. If he just stops drinking, do this, watch him, monitor him, search the house, throw away the liquor. Holy shit. But during all that time, they don't have anything to do with themselves. They're dissociated on me, I'm dissociated on Jack Daniels, and we're all going down a rabbit hole. I'll give you two non-ingested addictions that are exactly alike, sex and gambling. Well, how could that be, Billy? They are different things. Nobody in my category wants to be high for 20 minutes. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. When I found methamphetamine, cocaine went down the toilet because I was sick and tired of having to do something every 20 minutes to maintain some altered state. Meth was great, right through the ceiling, let's go. Oh! A shopping addict, do they go to one store and come home? Hell no! So when you think about what I'm getting at, everybody that's in some obsessive compulsive disorder for dissociation is for an extended period of time or a lengthy alteration of sustained heightened affect. So, I usually write it on that side. So what happens through the mapping, like I told you before, if I had a heroin addict here, and I had an alcoholic here, and I had a sex addict here, and I had a gambler here. They were all in their state of withdrawal. And I tell the heroin addict, here's his cell phone, he calls his dealer, he knows the number by heart, he talks to his dealer, he knows the voice, the dealer's available, the dealer has stuff, the dealer realizes he's sick, so he offers to bring it by. That's great, he hangs up, and what happens? He begins to feel better. No dope on board. Why? Because all this ran to the entire behavior he just completed that has been logged, and that behavior knows relief is on its way. So now I get to the alcoholic who's probably very, very, very antisocial, very aggressive, anxiety, maybe sweating, maybe shaking, and I give him the keys to his car and tell him you can go to the bar. On the way too, but definitely when he gets to the parking lot of the bar, guess what's going to happen? He's going to feel better. I hadn't had a drink yet. Why? Because all that travel and everything about his behavior has been mapped, and it relates to relief. The gambling addict gets to the casino parking lot, the sex addict gets to the computer. All will begin to experience relief without engaging in anything else. Now, the reason I put these up here is because there's a great misconception about what is a sex addiction, and I'll tell you right now, very few people are actually acting out. The brain, dopamine, all resets itself within 15 seconds after orgasm, which is why everybody's lighting a cigarette. You know that as a human being, and if you don't like having to do coke every 20 minutes, you certainly aren't looking for self-gratification, because that whole epidemic or that whole trip is gone. And you're not there for a 20-minute high. If you go into the casino and you finally sit at a poker table and you're lucky in 10 minutes you scooped up 10,000 bucks, are you going to leave? No, hell no. I'm here for action. And if I walk away from the table, normal people, it all goes away. They go home and put it in the bank and they make a sandwich, and we don't understand that. So this guy finally gets a table and he begins to engage, and this guy finally logs on to the computer. And now we're at the beginning. In the anticipation stage, we have elevated our affective state and began to dissociate into a fantasy land. Reality does only take place in the brain, and that which you will go to is your reality at the moment, regardless if you're sitting on the couch. You lose all spatial about where you are physically. I'm sure you've all had a fantasy where you missed an entire TV program because sitting on the couch you went off somewhere else. That is reality, whether you understand that or not. So these two people are already fantasizing, we're getting this thing going, and here we go. So you can come back and visit them, somewhere between 2 or 3 hours, and this one may be increasing the bet. This one's definitely increasing the sites he's visiting, because it's about increasing the stimulation. It's about increasing the heightened state. I'm building tolerance to betting $5. I'm building tolerance to naked pictures. I'm building tolerance to betting $10. I'm building tolerance to watching this. Here we go. Typically speaking, on both of these, you can go back and check them between 5 and 7, and you might even go out to be as far as 12 hours or more. Because what they are after is a sustained, heightened, effective, dissociative state. Neither one of these people during this 12 hours has any association to real life. They don't have a family, they don't have bills. They don't have anything bothering them. They don't have divorce, they don't have anything. Which thus is the whole reason that any of us who are in maladaptive coping skills are doing these things. Now, if you look at step 1, this is causing great unmanageability in my life. Sex addiction in this case, I'm telling you right now, women are catching up. But you know what the wife feels as she's losing her husband to a computer 3-4 nights a week till dawn? And the emotional thing that she's going through regarding her own position? Do you know what's going on when this guy's losing all the money? He's not home for dinner with his kids, all this other stuff. So here comes great unmanageability. What is unmanageability going to do right here? Stress, anxiety, anger. You know what? And what am I going to do to relieve that? Right back to where I am. The cycle continues. So when these people come to treatment, as Dr. Shore said, if you know something about their subconscious motivations, this will be the better predictor of how they will react in certain situations, and that would usually be stressful situations. Meaning, we want to know what your family history is. I want to know things so that I can start to help you. Because we take the drug away, we've just removed the symptom, we've just removed the coping skill. You're hotter than hell. I got people calling their parents, this place sucks, they're laying there. What's the addict trying to do? Get the hell out. Run. And they don't want to just leave, so they're going to call first, and they're going to tell their parents or their spouses how lame we are. And we don't know how to run a treatment center, even though they never had one. If that doesn't work, they may go into a behavioral conflict where they start breaking rules and doing anything to make themselves a victim and get kicked out, so they don't have to just tell their loved ones, I left. And why is it that they say they're crawling out of their skin? Why is it they can't handle? What is going on with them? Emotional dysregulation. Affect regulation is not going on. This begins at birth with mother and daughter. It begins between a left eye and a left eye connection of an unseen, invisible signal that's going back and forth. This is where the baby learns attunement and how to regulate its own emotional state. At age, or by around the end of age 2, beginning of age 3, father becomes as important of an attachment figure as the mother. But what we also know today is the attachment, no matter what is going on, can only be as healthy as mother's attachment was to her mother, father's attachment to his father, to his mother. If I have somebody who's holding a child and goo-goo gawing it and feeding it and smiling at it, but their internal state is Billy out getting drunk and spending all our damn money, and she's internally all screwed up, is the baby reading that in this attunement? Absolutely. The baby doesn't know love. This could be a 6-month-old child, doesn't know love. But what it is experiencing at a survival level in the limbic system is a threat to security. It's experiencing a threat to safety. I've seen a 2-year-old child dissociate in the bathtub because the mother and father were fighting in another room, and when their volume got so loud that the child went poof, gone. Because trauma is heavily linked to you not being able to escape. And that escape, that inability may also be linked to a freeze response. In other words, you can escape, but you freeze, fight and flight, and therefore you can't, which means, again, exposure to trauma. No child can leave the home, pack the bags, and go live with somebody else. So what they're experiencing in these households has a huge impact on how they'll see themselves. How they see themselves is going to determine how they see the world and how they're going to connect to you. Okay, you're standing up. Any questions? No questions? All right.
I have one.
Yes.
Because we got a few minutes. Share with them your lowest that you did in the other class. Your lowest level. When did you hit rock bottom?
I was talking to a student in her last class, and he was asking me questions. There's always this question: what's rock bottom? My experience shows that all bottoms are different. We try to raise the bottom. But the most successful are the people who emotionally hit rock bottom, not physically. We have 33 prisons in the state of California. 85% of them are non-violent drug offenders. Prison hasn't scared them. Loss of children and divorce hasn't scared them. But the people who lose their soul, who fall into the greatest darkness, are the people that usually connect to Quistis and realize, something needs to be done. For me, that didn't happen. Well, I did, but it didn't. I worked for Anheuser-Busch. Just a little funny there. I couldn't swallow food. It took me 3 or 4 hours for the food to get down through my esophagus, and I was having acid reflux to the point where I almost choked one night because in my sleep it was just coming up and I was laying down. And so finally because alcoholics are great doctors, we diagnosed ourselves as what comes. By the way, I had to quit drinking Jack Daniels straight by then, and I ended up only being able to drink Old Granddad straight because the Jack Daniels was coming up, which had never happened. Couldn't have been the whiskey or the stomach, so I had to find a whiskey I could drink straight. So finally they coaxed me into going to see a gastroenterologist, and basically he looked at me. We had this argument, and time is weird. Life is weird. He asked me how much I drank. I said, I drink a lot. Why I said that, I still to this day don't know. He asked me how much. I said, yeah, a lot. And this went on. We had a big banter going on. I gave him some rough estimate. It was probably underreported. Anyway, his report to me was my liver was completely swollen, and he wanted to do an endoscopy because he really couldn't tell anything from the outside. And he gave me a prescription to go get blood work, and I'm not actually figuring what's blood work got to do in my stomach. And he said, nothing. Anybody who drinks like you, I need to check some stuff. So anyway, I never heard from him again. I came in to do the endoscopy, and while I was under, by the way, I woke up with that tube down my neck. See, when you do drugs for 23 years and you're still drinking heavily, you have a real tolerance to what the doctors give you at a normal level. Anyway, I woke up in the waiting room, or in the recovery room, and there I am. I'm thinking, I gotta get home, okay? My mom's there, friends are there. They're not gonna let me do anything. I can't drive. But I am smart. I got liquid Demerol in me, I got liquid Valium in me, and if I get home quick, I can make a couple drinks and I can make this shit work. All of a sudden I have this panic family running in. What I didn't know was I was gonna die, and that's what my doctor told the family. You're gonna give him a death certificate. If he continues to drink, he ain't making it long at all. My mom's codependent. It's so bad that at 38 years old, he made my mother sign a consent stating she would not leave me, a 38-year-old man, alone for the night. Seriously. But my mom's codependent. In a couple hours, I had convinced her I was okay, and so I went and got a couple beers, went to next door, and they made me a couple vodka tonics, and I had a double fister going, and I was able to achieve what I wanted. So the next day, I told everybody, I'm gonna stop drinking, ain't no problem. I was not able to get below 7 beers a day. Spaced out. At one point, my landlord came over, I'm leaning up against the kitchen sink, and I got a butt long neck in my hand. He says, do you need a doctor? I'm like ready to throw computers out the window. I'm like ready to really start tearing shit apart. So I went to work on Monday, and I didn't drink during the day, so I was coming apart at the seams. Called my buddy in a frantic, said, meet me at the bar. And I met him at the bar, and I ordered this big 32-ounce schooner of beer, and I started crying on his shoulder. I'm gonna die. And I drank that, and I went home, and I drank 4 more beers. And I got to the point where I was calm, and I called that doctor. Because I wanted to detox. You know, if I'm going to do this, I finally realized this isn't working for me. Because I ain't going to detox. You need to go inpatient. Oh, no, I can't do that. So anyway, he said, you're playing Russian roulette, you got the bullet, I told your family, you want to detox, you got a program. And other people helped me. They put everything together. I went into the Charter Hospital, Mr. Viejo, a freestanding psychiatric hospital, and I was going to drink again. And no intention of not ever drinking again. As an alcoholic, the greatest thing I could think was a break. Yeah, that's it, a break. I am a Teamster, 25 and out, all retired, go fishing and drink. What happened in the treatment center, what happened amongst counselors and what we do in there is where I was able to open up and finally understand where the problem was, which is with me. And I'll leave it with this. One of the greatest therapeutic things that should have happened when I was a child at 38 years old was, and Shore and Siegel say probably the first true secure attachment figure an addict and alcoholic will have will be a sponsor. So the first time I revealed my true self and the fear that the boy had been holding, the man returned to me some of his greatest fears, put his arms around me and hugged me. And I was almost 39 years old the first time I learned that I can be my true self and that people will accept me and protect what I have told them. And that begins a long road, but that begins the road of a real bond with a human being and repairing an attachment disorder. You have to take a quiz, so I know where we